Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to take a look at crosswind takeoffs. Now a lot of times when people think about crosswinds, like, oh god, it's going to mess me up when I land. But believe it or not, they can actually be really dangerous on takeoff. So what we've done here is we've grabbed ourselves a tail dragger. Now unfortunately the good folks over at Microsoft haven't quite got the tail dragger chaotic, oh my god, I'm going to roll off the runway control scheme just yet. And yes, you'd know exactly what I meant if you flew a real tail dragger. But one of the things we do have, though, is still a lot of the consequences of having a massive crosswind. So, let's get started. So jumping inside my controls here, everything's looking pretty groovy. I've got my controls all set. We're flying the Wilga today. This is the 80X. This is the really high horsepower version of it. So let's go ahead and get ourselves a crosswind. If you take a look right now, we're facing the general direction. I love how they take a lot, like, my critical direction instrument is gone. It's like, what joke are you playing here? What joke are you playing here? Unfortunately, if I go to 3D vision mode, you can see that I'm about runway 10 here. That's what we want to do. The reason I want that is, so I'm going to go up to weather here. Go ahead and grab my ground level here. And right now we've got this, gentle wind coming from this side. Remember, this is the runway heading. So we're going to go ahead and take a 90-degree crosswind, and we'll make it a 20-knot crosswind. There, that should do it. That's definitely going to be dangerous. So if I take a look at my windsock right now, I'm noticing that the windsock is blowing ferociously from my left-hand side here. Now, when people usually try to take off from crosswinds, you get in a kind of the bad habit of dealing with a tricycle landing gear, and your initial instinct is to go wee-hee-hee on the rudder pedals kind of a thing. And it's not to say that the rudder pedals aren't a critical component of keeping us on the ground. But the reality is, once you start getting winds of this speed, you have to actually make sure that the wheels of the airplane stay on the ground long enough for you to be able to have lateral control of the plane. So we're going to have a bunch of problems to face at the same time. The first one is the plane's going to have the good old-fashioned weather vane effect. So the plane is going to want to pull into the wind. The tail, if you ever fired a bow, for example, and you have those little feathers on the back, it's going to want to snap itself into that direction. We're going to compensate for that by applying our right rudder for the purposes of our takeoff here. The second component is because of the way that wind's going to be hitting us, the plane's going to want to roll this way, which is going to cause this tire right here to lift off the ground. The problem is we need the traction of this tire in order to keep us safe on this takeoff run here. Obviously, this tire will help us considerably, but the last thing we want in the universe is for this wing to bite the air, stall, and then slam us back down on the runway itself. So to demonstrate this phenomenon, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and release our parking brakes, hold the brake. I'm going to take off without touching my ailerons at all. I'm only going to apply rudder forces here. Go ahead and apply my takeoff power and let go. So what's going to happen is we're going to start ripping down the runway. Oh, God. Oh, God. No. Whoa. And you can see we almost lost it there. As a matter of fact, I might have taken out a couple of those lights there when we did our little takeoff run. You probably observed immediately. Look at the crab angle, by the way. Incredibly, did you notice that the moment the tail wheel got light, the nose snapped into the wind? Like that with your fingers, and I completely lost lateral control and started getting pushed off the right side of the runway. That could have been a disaster. And like I said, because the tail wheel physics are a little simplified, I was able to pull that off. Now let's change our control forces a little bit and see what happens differently. All right, here we are again. So we have the same exact situation, and we have that tremendously strong wind. This time we're going to do things a little bit differently. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and use our rudders as before to try to keep the nose straight. But we're now going to use our ailerons for the purposes of basically dropping one wing into the wind to try to hold that tire down long enough for us to be able to safely go ahead and get ourselves airborne. So I'm going to use the same technique as I did before. I'm going to go ahead and release my parking brake here, confirm those are off, which is good to me. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take our ailerons and we're going to deflect them completely into the wind. The goal here is to go ahead and keep that wing grounded. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and release our brakes. We're going to apply a little bit of power here. And again, remember what's going to happen here. All right, keep that aileron. There's the lift. Keep the aileron left. Keep the aileron left. And the aircraft is now completely airborne, just like that. Now what you'll notice is as we started that little acceleration run, I held the ailerons completely to the left during the first part and then gently started backing them up towards the right. Did you notice that rather than having that chaotic all the way down the runway, that I was able to keep myself on the center line during the entire run? Enjoy.